Thank you so much. Well, in a word, what excites me is the power of science to change the world, to improve health, protect our children, our most vulnerable. Few words about how I came to be here. When I started as a researcher in cancer on the environmental causes of cancer, I, like my colleagues, knew almost nothing about the exposures that children might be receiving even before they were born to environmental toxicants. And we knew nothing much about the special vulnerability of children. So I had a wake-up call about this when in the course of research, I and my colleagues found this particular molecular fingerprint in samples where it should never have been. These were samples from newborns, thought to be pristine control samples, unwritten on. And so surprising to find this signal, or what we call biomarker, of a chemical. The black blob there is called benzoate. It's one of the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These sound good, but they're not. They're pollutants from combustion of fossil fuel, traffic, coal plants, for example, and present in the air everywhere. And this chemical is not only a potent carcinogen, but it can, as we found out, can do other bad things. And finding this in these newborn samples made me wake up to the fact that we really needed to know a lot more. Now, in order to learn about that, my colleague Bernie Weinstein, also at Columbia at that time, and I proposed a new approach to the study of environmentally related disease. In the past, traditionally, epidemiologic studies measured exposure through questionnaire data or through area-wide monitoring indirectly, and then matched that up to clinical disease, assess cases of disease, deaths, and nothing was known about all those events occurring over the years in that black box. So we proposed to open that black box and directly measure in humans, in populations, the amount of the exposure dose that had been received, the amount of preclinical damage, we could measure that, and also how susceptible individuals were to that particular exposure. So this was a new tool for us, and at the same time, we were noticing that there were very disturbing upward trends, dramatic trends upward in the rates of childhood asthma, of ADHD, even autism, and obesity, all going up, and better diagnosis did not fully explain these, in fact, only explained a part of these very disturbing, dramatic increases. So we asked ourselves, could there be a connection between the chemicals that we're finding or we know are in the environment, air pollutants like PAH, chemicals in plastics like bisphenol A, BPA, phthalates, flame retardants, PBDEs, or pesticides like chlorpyrifos, abbreviated as CPF. And could there be a relationship between those exposures occurring even before babies were born and these outcomes, adverse birth outcomes, neurodevelopmental disorders, obesity, metabolic disorders, asthma, and cancer risk? So, using molecular epidemiology as a tool in studies in New York City, in Poland, in China, my colleagues and I began to enroll women in pregnancy. And using, as I say, molecular epidemiology and the use of biologic markers, we were able to show links between various of these exposures and these adverse outcomes that I show you on that slide. Now, you may ask, what's going on? How can this be? The placenta is protecting, the placenta is protecting the fetus. How do these chemicals get through? Why are we seeing them in such high, almost 90% or more of the newborns had measurable levels of these chemicals in most cases. How could that be? Well, the placenta is actually semi-permeable, and it doesn't really protect against all exposures. Many chemicals pass right through. And in addition, the fetus doesn't have operating the defense mechanisms that we adults do to detoxify chemicals, repair their damage. And just think about how rapid fetal development is. All the brain and other systems are developing so rapidly. Look at the human brain. There are 86 billion neurons or nerve cells in the human brain, almost all of them formed in those first 9 months. So you can imagine that any insult, disruption by any of these chemicals during this highly choreographed process can have very detrimental effects. Well, I don't want to leave you with gloom. I see very serious faces here. There are huge opportunities to prevent these exposures, prevent these harms from occurring. Alternatives to toxic chemicals and pesticides exist. Renewables and conservation are viable alternatives to continuing to burn fossil fuel. And an estimate of the cost of childhood illness due to environmental exposures is as great as $76 billion per year in the US. Flip it around, benefits that are possible. Also, thinking about fossil fuel burning, coal, oil, even natural gas emits pollutants. And thinking about the many benefits from reducing our dependence on fossil fuel, because fossil fuel is the primary source of toxic air pollutants and of CO2, the main driver of climate change. And of course, children are among the most vulnerable to climate change as well as to air toxics. So I keep in mind these big benefits, and I believe that work such as ours has helped to raise awareness of the public and also drawn attention of policymakers to these problems and to the special susceptibility of children, the need to protect them. And I'm optimistic that robust science can be a powerful driver of preventive policies, and that especially when there is moral engagement, and there is never stronger moral engagement than in our shared commitment to protecting the health of our children and their future. So I'm very excited about the opportunities that we as scientists have to conduct the science and then make it available to the public so that there can be big change. So thank you very much, all of you. And